Next topic is pivoting and unpivoting. Okay, what is pivoting? Converting rows into columns. Converting your rows into columns. Okay, that is what pivoting is all about. What is unpivoting? The opposite. Converting your columns into rows. That is called your unpivoting. Okay, and we have something else called transpose and reverse. That also we'll take a look at it now. So this is why dataset I loaded the expenses.xls file. And here, if you click on the transform button, ribbon, you will find the pivot column, unpivot column. And also you will find the transpose button, right? And reverse rows. Okay. Already we explored what is count rows. Okay. Now we will take a look at transpose, all the things. Okay. Start with, let us see how to do pivoting. What is pivoting? You convert the rows into columns. These are the rows, right? These rows you need to convert as the columns. Okay, based on which column can I do this? This is the one is hindering. I just disable this option. Okay, fine. So now what I'll do is I will do pivoting based on the year column. I select the year column. You need to select the column which you want to pivoting. Okay, I selected this one. Click on the pivot. And here you will find the values column. Okay, the values are expenses. I'm going to select this one. Advanced option is your sum. The default aggregation function is sum, and there are other aggregation functions also available. If you don't want to aggregate, select don't aggregate. In my case, I'm going to use sum. I'm going to hit OK now. So what happened earlier? See, this is what my original data, right? This is what my original data. So 2020, 2020, all these 2020 became a column now. All these 2021 became a column now after I did the selection. So the rows, these rows, right, entire rows became 2020. Here 2020, right? So 2020, okay. And this one, these rows became 2021, right? Up to this 2021. And the 2022 start from here, right? The rest of 2022. That's all, right? And here, if you see here, what happened? All the 2020 and the the month will remain as it is. The month will remain. So 9 months data. If you put 2020, 21 here, right? So only one was one time. If the month repeats 1 to 9, that is enough. Need not to repeat multiple time, right? This redundancy will get removed when you do the pivoting. That is another advantage. Now it looks so compact. So exploring this data is pretty simple, isn't it? But whereas here you need to scroll down, 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 and assume that you have 100,000 records are there, right? If you do the pivoting, it is pretty simple. It makes your life very simple. So what I do is I just right click on it and I'm going to duplicate this. Okay, but in real world scenario, don't duplicate it unless it is really required. This is for your purpose. I'm going to share this file after this session. So I'm going to give some meaningful name for this query. So all these tables are called as query in Power Query because it's a Power Query editor, hence it considers all the table as queries. And let's say if you want to share it to your management, you can share it something like that. So they can see the, hey, where is the pivoted one? Can you show me the unpivoted one? So what we will do is we'll do the unpivoting now. How do I do the unpivot? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, how do I do the unpivoting? What do you mean by unpivoting? I want to convert these columns into rows. So there is a requirement. Okay. For that case, you need to hold the control key and you need to unselect this one. You need to select the columns that you want to unpivot. Okay. Select these 3 columns manually. How do I select? How do I do the multi-column select? You need to hold the control key while selecting these 3 columns. Only then you can do multi-selecting. Okay. Other option is control A, it will get select anything and then hold the control key and then you select any of the column, right? This is another way of doing it. Okay. So here we have some other option called unpivot. Just click on the unpivot. Now you got back the original data. This is your year. You need to rename it here. This is your year. This is your month. Sorry, values, expenses. month, year expenses. I just move this toward the side and year, month expenses. That's all right. It looks pretty decent. So this is your unpivoting. I just right click on it and I'm going to, this time I'm going to select reference. Reference. So what is the difference between duplicate and reference? See, when you click on this is original data. Let's say I don't want to disturb this data. I can undo this one. I can make it simple. Okay. But whatever changes, if I make it, that one will get reflected here. Okay. That is what reference. See, the duplicate is simply you duplicate this one here. So supposing you have 1 million records, the 1 million records will get duplicated, right? This is not the expected one. Unless it is really required, don't do duplicate. Okay. This is for illustration purpose, I did it. Okay. But anyhow, the volume of the data is less. If I duplicate, nothing will happen. This is for our manager. He wants to see the next, the pivot thing. And if he wants to see the unpivot, he can click on it and he can see the unpivot also here. So what I'll do is I will just create another pivot, duplicate. Okay. Sorry, another copy. Okay. And duplicate. Okay. I'm going to rename this as unpivot expenses. So if you wants to see what is pivot and unpivot, show me that. Then say, yes, we did the pivoting. You look at sir. And this is what your unpivot. This is what this thing. Whatever you want, you can see it. Okay. You are giving an option to him. Next one is show me the original data. This is the original data. So in this case, okay, before this is my original data. Okay, what I will do is if I'm so okay, now you understood these are the duplicates of these two things. This one, sorry, this one, right? Duplicate of this one. So what I did the pivoting first in this original data, and then I took the copy of this one. It's a Xerox copy, the pivot one. And then I applied the unpivot on the original data. And then I took a Xerox copy, which means I duplicated the same thing. And next one is, this is for your understanding purpose. What is the difference between, the duplicate and reference? Okay. For example, if I change anything here, expenses 1, column name, if I change it, that one will get reflected automatically here. Right? This is something like a parent, whatever the DNA parents have, the same, DNA, or the family DNA, right? That will be inherited by the kids. Same thing here. But if you see here, it will not get reflected here, right? So here nothing, first of all, yeah, expense remains. So in the case of duplicate, these duplicated queries are completely mutually exclusive from your original query. Whatever the changes you made, it will not going to affect this one because these two are completely independent, right? These two are independent of one another, right? And independent of others also, right? It is not depending on, whereas this query is depending on this one. How do I view the query dependencies? Sir, click on view query dependencies. In the real world scenario, you'll be working on multiple queries. So when you click on the queries, where did I do this? Go to the view and click on the query dependencies. And here you will find it. Look here, you have something called zoom. With this, if you by sliding this toward the right side, you can find out the query dependencies here. You can see that here, this is not the one we are talking. Yeah, I just, what I will do is I'll just go, you can drag inside, drag towards the left side, right side. After I drag this towards the left side, if I slide this towards the right side, and you can also drag after this one, you can see that the pivot expenses and unpivot is directly depending on your Excel file, right? Though we have created these two copies from this original file, these two, once you created the duplicates, it is nowhere, depending on this one. Whereas this one I created with an option called reference. Hence, this one is depending on this. And if I make any changes, it will get reflected. Supposing if I delete a column here, it will get deleted here also. But here it will not going to delete. It's a kind of a duplicate. Okay. So it's something like, if your original document gets damaged, still you have the Xerox copy, right? Your Xerox copy will not get damaged. Okay. It's something, this is something like a mirror. right? If you, whatever you do it in the mirror, you can see it, right? The same thing is kind of a mirror. They might ask you, how do you check the query dependencies in the interview, right? So you can ask, what is the difference between duplicate and reference? You can tell the references. It depends on, as the name suggests, it references the original query. In the case of any changes you make it in the original query, that will get reflected in reference query. Whereas if I make any changes in my reference query, that will not reflect in my original query. Look here, because he is the boss to him, right? Whatever the boss says, he has to, but he cannot, boss cannot obey his subordinates. You just think that, okay? So that is how, it works, the pivot and unpivot. Now we have understood unpivot and pivot. And so now the question is, okay, if I go to the transform button, I can see various options, sir. Unpivot other columns, unpivot only selected columns. Unpivot only selected columns. Okay, now what I do is, I will do pivoting once again. Okay, before that, I will take a duplicate. Okay, instead of taking this duplicate, I will take the pivot, right? Yeah, pivot as a duplicate. Now I do the unpivot. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do is, so I have to select all the 3 columns in this case to do the unpivoting, right? To convert these columns into rows, I need to select these 3 columns. Instead of that, I just go to the unpivot columns, click on the drop down, unpivot only, unpivot other columns, second option. That means except this column, rest of the column you do unpivot. Instead of going and manually selecting this kind of a comfort. That's all, guys. This is here. This is your expenses. I move this towards the left side. So this is now I call rename this as a unpivot other columns. That's all. Very simple, it makes our life simple, right? That's all. Nothing much difference. And I just go ahead and duplicate this one again. Here, if I go here, sorry, here, you might be wondering unpivot other columns, right? Unpivot other columns. Sorry, this is what is unpivot only selected columns. Okay. In this case, right, you select Control A. Control A, and you unselect only this one. Go here. Unpivot only select. So only these selected columns you can unpivot. That's all, guys. So you might be asking this one. So, what kind of situations can I do like this? Supposing they have given you data like this. While giving the data itself, they've given you something like this. They want you to do unpivoting, right? In that case, simply what you do is use Control A. Control A is helpful to select all the columns, right? And then hold the Control key, unselect it, and go here and unpivot only selected column. This is one way of doing it, okay? This one is, for example, I selected only this column. Hey, do unpivot on the rest of the columns. Click on this. That's all. Now you understood the difference between all the 3, right? Yeah. The next one is the transpose. Transpose, what it does is it simply rotates your data. So in the sense, I will just show you here. So it will transform your rows to columns and columns to entire data, it will rotate. So here month is 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, right? I click on transpose once. Sorry, not here. Yeah, I'll be using it here. So let me remove this one. Now you understood these steps. I'm going to remove this one. This one is not required. This is related to the other steps. Pause my video wherever it is required, and then you can play it around with that. Okay. Try to explore on your own, right? So once if I talk too much, I'll have to cut those part. So what happened now? So the month, once again, all the month became rows now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Each column became a row here. Okay. It's completely rotated the entire data. Okay, if I want to rotate it again, click on it one more time, that's all. You got the original data. Only thing is you need to rename the columns. If I click on it one more time, same thing, it'll rotate the data, unrotate the data. Rotate, unrotate, rotate, unrotate. That is possible with transpose. If you click on it once, rotate. Once again, if you click on it, it will unrotate. That's all, guys. Next one is the reverse rows. Okay, what do you mean by reverse rows? Oh, whatever the last row, you want to make it first row, right? That is what reverse rows. If you click on it, it will not do the rotating. Instead, your last record, see earlier the 9th month was there at the bottom, right? Now it is in the descending order, 9, 8, 7, something like that. Okay. Last become first, first become last, something like that. Okay. This is what reverse. Now we learnt about what is transpose and pivot and unpivot, everything. Okay. What I will do is in between with this, I'm going to wrap up. So now before wrap up, I'm going to summarize it quickly. With transpose, you can rotate and unrotate. Reverse rows, like I said, last row will become first row, right? You can reverse rows. And pivot, you can convert the rows into columns. And unpivot, you can convert columns into rows. Okay. And we have 3 different options. We explored that one also.